Texas is growing fast, like really fast. People are moving here for the jobs, the space, the low taxes, and the promise of something bigger. But growth does not fix everything, sadly. And in some Texas cities, the problems that existed before the boom are getting worse, not better. Crime rates that were already above average are climbing. Police departments that were already understaffed are losing officers faster than they can recruit. And the residents living through it are asking a simple question that nobody in charge seems to want to answer. When does it stop? Today, we are counting down 10 Texas cities where crime is completely out of control. These are not just cities with bad neighborhoods. These are cities where the numbers tell a story that no amount of marketing can hide. Corsicana is a city of about 24,000 people in Navarro County, roughly 60 miles south of Dallas along Interstate 45. It is the kind of small town in Texas that looks charming from the highway exit. A courthouse square, a few antique shops, pecan orchards on the outskirts, the birthplace of the famous Collins Street Bakery fruitcake. But behind the small town postcard, Corsicana has a crime problem that is disproportionate to its size. The property crime rate in Corsicana is well above the state average. Vehicle theft, burglary, and larceny are persistent issues that have been climbing steadily over the past several years. Residents in some neighborhoods have stopped leaving anything visible in their cars because the break-ins are so frequent that it has become routine. The violent crime rate is also elevated. Aggravated assaults and domestic violence cases make up a significant share of the police blotter. The Corsicana Police Department is small and stretched thin, responding to a volume of calls that would challenge a department twice its size. Navarro County sits along what law enforcement calls the I-45 corridor, a stretch of highway between Dallas and Houston that has become a transit route for narcotics trafficking. The drugs that move through the corridor do not just pass through, some of them stop, and the downstream effects of that, addiction, property crime, domestic instability, show up in the data. Corsicana is not a dangerous city in the way that Houston or Dallas are dangerous. It is dangerous in the way that small towns become dangerous when the economy is thin, the resources are limited, and the problems are growing faster than the solutions. For a city of 24,000 people, the crime numbers should be a fraction of what they are. They are not, and that gap between what the numbers should be and what they actually are is the definition of out of control. Wichita Falls is a city of about 104,000 people in North Texas, sitting close to the Oklahoma border about 2 hours northwest of Dallas. It is home to Sheppard Air Force Base, which has been the economic anchor of the city for decades. The base provides job stability and a steady flow of military personnel and their families. But outside the gates of Sheppard, Wichita Falls has been struggling with crime rates that are well above what a city this size should be producing. The violent crime rate in Wichita Falls consistently runs above the Texas state average. Aggravated assault is the most common violent offense and has been trending upward for several years. Property crime is even worse. Theft, burglary, and vehicle crime rates are significantly elevated. Some neighborhoods on the south and east sides of the city report break-in rates that make residents feel like locking their doors is more of a suggestion than a safeguard. The economic picture outside of the military base is part of the problem. Wichita Falls has not attracted the kind of corporate investment or tech economy that cities like Austin, Dallas, and San Antonio have benefited from. The job market is dominated by the base, healthcare, and retail. For young people without a military career path, the options are limited, and limited options in a city with a thin economy have predictable consequences. The Wichita Falls Police Department has faced staffing challenges that mirror a national trend. Recruiting and retaining officers in a mid-sized Texas city that cannot compete with DFW salaries is a constant battle. Response times have stretched, community policing programs have been scaled back, and the criminals who operate in the gaps between patrols know exactly how thin the coverage has become. Wichita Falls is a city that depends on one institution for its economic survival, and when that institution is a federal military base whose future is always subject to political decisions in Washington, the stability that residents rely on is never as solid as it feels. You know what is solid? This channel. Subscribe! We do the research so you do not have to learn the hard way. The next 8 cities on this list will change how you look at Texas. San Angelo is a city of about 102,000 people in West Texas, sitting along the Concho River about 3.5 hours southwest of Dallas. It recently crossed a 100,000 population threshold, which would normally be a sign of growth and momentum. But the crime numbers suggest that the growth has come with complications. San Angelo has one of the highest property crime rates of any mid-sized city in Texas. Burglary and theft are the dominant offenses. The numbers are not just above the state average, they are significantly above it. The Concho Valley has long had a problem with property crime that law enforcement attributes to a combination of poverty, substance use, and a geographic isolation that makes the city a low-priority target for state-level law enforcement resources. Vehicle theft in San Angelo has surged in recent years. The city has become a hotspot for stolen cars, partly because of its location along several highway routes that connect West Texas to the border region and to larger metros. A stolen vehicle in San Angelo can be across state lines or across the border before anyone files a report. Violent crime is not as extreme as property crime, but it is still above average. Aggravated assaults have been climbing, and the police department, like many in West Texas, is fighting a constant battle to maintain staffing levels in a region where the cost of living is low, but so are the wages for public servants. San Angelo is a beautiful small city with a river walk, a strong arts community, and a quality of life that attracts retirees and families. But the crime data tells a parallel story that the tourism board does not include in the brochure. Property crime is not just a statistic, it is a daily reality for residents who have learned to lock everything, trust nothing left outside overnight, and accept that a certain level of theft is just part of living here. That acceptance is the clearest sign that the problem is out of control. Lufkin is a city of about 36,000 people in Angelina County in deep East Texas, surrounded by the Angelina National Forest and about 2 hours north of Houston. It is the kind of town that people drive through on their way to somewhere else. And for the people who live here, the crime statistics suggest that somewhere else might be the better destination. Lufkin's violent crime rate is significantly above the state average. Aggravated assaults account for the bulk of it, but robbery and domestic violence cases are persistent. The Lufkin Police Department reports a volume of calls that strains a force designed for a quieter era. The city has not grown much in population over the past decade, but the crime rate has not followed that stability downward. It has gone up. The poverty rate in Lufkin is one of the highest in East Texas. Nearly a quarter of the population lives below the poverty line, and the correlation between poverty and crime is not a theory. It is a pattern that plays out in the data year after year. Limited employment options outside of the timber industry, healthcare at the regional hospital, and retail leave a significant portion of the workforce underemployed or employed entirely. The drug problem in East Texas is well documented. Methamphetamine has been a persistent issue in rural communities throughout the Piney Woods region, and Lufkin has not been spared. Drug-related offenses drive a significant share of both violent and property crime, and the treatment and rehabilitation resources available in a city of 36,000 are nowhere near adequate to address the scale of the problem. Lufkin is not a city that makes national crime headlines. It is a city that makes its own residents nervous after dark. The kind of city where people check the police blotter every morning, not out of curiosity, but out of necessity. That quiet, persistent anxiety is what out of control looks like in a small Texas town. Victoria is a city of about 66,000 people in South Texas, sitting along the Guadalupe River about 2 hours southwest of Houston. It is the county seat of Victoria County and has historically served as a regional hub for oil, gas, and agriculture. The economy is real, the jobs exist, but the crime rates are punching well above what a city this size and this economically active should be producing. Victoria consistently ranks among the highest per capita crime rates for any Texas city under 100,000 people. Violent crime runs above the state average, with aggravated assault leading the way. Property crime is even more pronounced. Burglary, vehicle theft, and larceny rates put Victoria in territory that you would expect from a city 3 times its size. Part of the problem is geographic. Victoria sits at the intersection of several major highways, including US 59, US 77, and US 87. That highway access makes it a transit point for drugs and stolen goods moving between Houston, Corpus Christi, and the Rio Grande Valley. What moves through Victoria does not always keep moving. Some of it stays, and the crime that follows it stays too. The Victoria Police Department has been transparent about the challenges. Staffing levels have not kept pace with the crime volume. Recruiting officers to a mid-sized South Texas city is difficult when Houston and San Antonio offer higher pay, better equipment, and clearer career paths. The officers who do serve in Victoria are handling caseloads that would overwhelm a larger department. For a city with a functioning economy and a genuine sense of community, the crime numbers are frustrating precisely because they feel preventable. Victoria has the economic base to support a safer city. What it does not have is the law enforcement resources, the social services infrastructure, and the intervention programs that could close the gap between what the city is and what it could be. That gap is where the crime lives. Longview is a city of about 82,000 people in Gregg County in East Texas, sitting along Interstate 20 about 2 hours east of Dallas and close to the Louisiana border. It is one of the largest cities in East Texas and serves as a regional center for healthcare, education, and retail. It is also one of the most consistently high crime cities in the eastern half of the state. The violent crime rate in Longview has been above the Texas state average for years. Robbery is a particular problem. The commercial corridors along Highway 80 and parts of the I-20 corridor see a frequency of armed robberies that has made gas station and convenience store workers among the most at-risk employees in the city. Aggravated assaults are common, and while the murder rate fluctuates year to year, it regularly exceeds what a city of 82,000 should produce. Property crime is equally elevated. Vehicle theft has been trending upward, and the proximity to the Louisiana border creates a geographic advantage for criminals. A stolen vehicle in Longview can be across state lines in less than 30 minutes. That makes recovery difficult and prosecution even harder. The Longview Police Department has invested in technology, including expanded camera networks and data-driven patrol strategies. But technology does not replace officers, and Longview has struggled with the same staffing shortages that plague departments across Texas. The city also faces a challenge that is harder to quantify: the perception of crime. Longview residents report feeling less safe than they did 5 years ago, even in neighborhoods that have not seen dramatic statistical changes. That perception drives behavior. People avoid certain areas after dark, businesses close earlier, and the economic vitality that comes from people being out and active in their city slowly erodes. When a city's residents change their daily routines because of crime, the problem has moved beyond statistics. It has become a way of life, and that is the most dangerous kind of out of control. And we are only at number 5. Subscribe, because the top 4 are the cities that shocked even us, and this channel does not shock easily. Texarkana is a unique city of about 37,000 people that straddles the Texas-Arkansas border. The state line literally runs through the middle of town. There is a Texarkana, Texas, and a Texarkana, Arkansas, and together they form a metro area of about 150,000 people. And the crime situation on the Texas side has been a persistent problem for decades. Texarkana's violent crime rate is well above both the Texas and national averages. Aggravated assault is the dominant offense, but robberies and weapons offenses are also elevated. The city has a history with violent crime that goes back generations. In 1946, the Phantom Killer terrorized the community in a series of unsolved murders that became one of the most famous cold cases in American criminal history. That was 80 years ago. The city has changed, but the crime has not gone away. It has just changed form. The border between the two states creates a jurisdictional complexity that criminals exploit. A crime committed on the Texas side can involve suspects who live on the Arkansas side, and vice versa. Coordinating between the Texarkana, Texas Police Department, the Texarkana, Arkansas Police Department, the Bowie County Sheriff, and the Miller County Sheriff requires a level of interagency cooperation that is not always seamless. Criminals know the gaps and they operate in them. The drug trade is a significant factor. Texarkana sits along Interstate 30, which connects Dallas to Little Rock, and Interstate 49, which runs north to south through western Arkansas. That highway network makes Texarkana a crossroads for narcotics distribution. Methamphetamine and fentanyl have been the dominant substances driving drug-related crime in recent years. For residents, the dual state identity that makes Texarkana unique is the same thing that makes its crime problem uniquely difficult to solve. You cannot police a city effectively when half of it answers to a different state's laws, a different court system, and a different set of priorities. That structural challenge is baked into Texarkana's geography, and until someone figures out how to erase a state line, the crime will continue to exploit the seam. Corpus Christi is a city of about 317,000 people on the Texas Gulf Coast. It is the largest coastal city in Texas. Beaches, bay fishing, the USS Lexington Museum, Padre Island National Seashore just across the bridge. For tourists, Corpus Christi is a destination. For residents, it is a city where the crime rate has been climbing in directions that the tourism board would rather not discuss. Corpus Christi has one of the highest property crime rates of any major Texas city. Larceny and theft are rampant, particularly in tourist areas where vehicles left in beach parking lots become easy targets. Vehicle break-ins along the seawall and near downtown are so common that local police have started issuing seasonal warnings to visitors. If you leave anything visible in your car in Corpus Christi, it will not be there when you get back. Violent crime is also above the state average. Gang activity has been a persistent issue in certain neighborhoods on the city's west side. Aggravated assaults and robberies occur at rates that outpace cities of comparable size. The Corpus Christi Police Department has been fighting an ongoing battle with recruitment and retention. Officers leave for higher-paying departments in San Antonio and Houston, and the ones who stay are covering more ground with fewer resources. The seasonal nature of the economy adds another layer. Tourism drives a significant portion of revenue and employment, but the jobs are seasonal, low-wage, and do not provide the kind of economic stability that reduces crime. When the tourists leave after Labor Day, the money leaves with them. The crime does not. Corpus Christi has the geography to be one of the great coastal cities in America. Warm water, year-round sunshine, a bay that glows at sunset. But the crime numbers tell a different story. A story about a city where the postcard view and the police blotter exist in the same frame, and the blotter is getting longer every year. Laredo is a city of about 267,000 people in South Texas, sitting directly on the Mexican border across the Rio Grande from Nuevo Laredo, Tamaulipas. It is the busiest inland port in the entire United States. Over $300 billion in international trade crosses through Laredo every year. Trucks move through the city around the clock, carrying goods between the two largest economies in North America. That volume of cross-border movement creates enormous economic opportunity. It also creates enormous criminal opportunity. Vehicle theft in Laredo runs at roughly double the Texas state average. Stolen vehicles are driven across the international bridge and into Mexico, where recovery is virtually impossible. The Laredo Police Department and federal agencies including CBP and ICE work to intercept stolen cars, but the proximity to the border makes Laredo one of the most attractive cities in America for vehicle theft operations. Smuggling is the other major crime driver. The Laredo sector is one of the most active along the entire U.S.-Mexico border for narcotics trafficking. Cocaine, methamphetamine, fentanyl, and marijuana move through Laredo in quantities that are measured in tons, not pounds. While much of the trafficking is handled by federal agencies, the spillover effects land on local law enforcement and local residents. Drug-related violence, weapons offenses, and money laundering all run higher than comparable Texas cities. The human smuggling component adds another dimension. Laredo is a major transit point for migrants being moved by smuggling organizations. Stash houses are discovered regularly. High-speed vehicle pursuits involving smuggling vehicles are not uncommon on the highways surrounding the city. These pursuits put civilians at risk and strain local police resources. Laredo is a city that generates enormous wealth through legitimate international trade, but that same border that enables $300 billion in commerce also enables a criminal economy that operates alongside it. The two economies, legal and illegal, are intertwined in ways that make Laredo's crime problem structurally different from any other city in Texas. You cannot separate the crime from the border, and you cannot move the border. But you can move your finger to that subscribe button. This channel covers the Lone Star State every single week. Number 1 is a town most Texans have never heard of, and the numbers will leave you speechless. Number 1 on this list is a city that most people in Texas have never heard of. Levelland is a small city of about 12,000 people in Hockley County, on the South Plains of West Texas, roughly 30 miles west of Lubbock. It is flat, it is windy, it is surrounded by cotton fields and oil pump jacks, and per capita, it has one of the most dangerous crime profiles of any city in the entire state of Texas. The violent crime rate in Levelland is 147% above the Texas state average. That is not a typo, 147%. In a city of 12,000 people, the number of assaults, robberies, and violent incidents per resident puts Levelland in territory that would be alarming for a city 10 times its size. Nearly 1,000 assaults were reported alongside dozens of robberies in the most recent data available. For a town where everybody supposedly knows everybody, the violence is staggering. Property crime is also elevated. Burglary and theft rates run well above state averages. The combination of poverty, substance abuse, and limited law enforcement resources creates a cycle that Levelland has not been able to break. The poverty rate is above the national average. Employment options outside of agriculture and oil are limited. And when oil prices drop, which they do cyclically, the economic floor falls out from under the community. Methamphetamine and opioid abuse are significant contributors to both violence and property crime. The rural nature of West Texas makes drug enforcement difficult. The distances are vast, the population is spread thin, and the law enforcement agencies covering Hockley County do not have the manpower to match the scope of the problem. Levelland is the county seat. It has a community college. It has a downtown square with a courthouse. It looks like 1,000 other small Texas towns, and that is exactly what makes the crime data so shocking. This is not Houston. This is not Dallas. This is not even Lubbock. This is a town of 12,000 people on the South Plains where the wind blows and the cotton grows, and the violent crime rate is nearly 2.5 times the state average. Levelland is number 1 on this list because it proves that crime in Texas is not just a big city problem, it is everywhere. And in some of the smallest towns where nobody is watching and nobody is counting, it is worse than anywhere else. Those are 10 Texas cities where crime is completely out of control. From the piney woods of East Texas to the cotton fields of the South Plains, from the Gulf Coast to the Arkansas border, these are not just big city problems. Some of the worst crime rates in Texas belong to towns that most people have never heard of. And the forces driving the numbers, poverty, drugs, understaffed police departments, and geographic isolation are not going away. If you are thinking about moving to Texas, these are the cities where you need to do your homework before you sign. Subscribe. I cover the Lone Star State every single week with data, not guesses. Drop a comment and tell me if your city made the list. We will see you in the next one.